Hello. In this video, I'm going to be talking about placement in developmental English. This placement is for starting in spring 2019. I'm Associate Professor Linda Minninger, and I'm the Developmental Education Coordinator. What I'm going to be talking about today is an overview of developmental English, a discussion of the new placement guides, how to read scores and correctly place students, and 8 placement examples. A brief overview of developmental English. In developmental reading, we have 3 courses that are offered. We have done away with English 001, the lowest reading level. Students will either place into 002, 003, or be eligible to take English 007, which is only offered on several campuses and is a combination of 002, 003 for 6 credits in the same semester. The developmental writing courses have not changed. We still have the English 050, English 051, and on several campuses, an accelerated section of 051, which is linked to 101, where students take both 051 and 101 in the same semester with the same instructor. We continue to have the integrated reading and writing course, English 057, which fulfills both English 003 and English 051 in 3 credits, and has a student ready for English 101 or English 110 after they've successfully completed English 057. We no longer have a lower integrated reading and writing course. You might remember English 056. That is currently not being offered. The developmental English goal is to prepare students to be successful in English 101 or English 110. English 110 was a new course that is required for some specific technical majors starting fall 2018, specifically the AAS degree. This course may not be transferable, but has the same prerequisites and co-prerequisite as English 101. It's called Foundations in Professional Writing. By and large, most students are still taking English 101, which has a co-prerequisite of English 003 and a prerequisite of English 051. For spring 2019, there will be 2 different placement guides on the advising guide. Both have the exact same information. The one on the left is in more of a flowchart form, and the one on the right, a narrative. Please note that if a student has multiple scores in their reading placement, you use the highest score for placement. Banner does not recognize which score is the latest, it just recognizes which score is the highest. The old AccuPlacer, or the classic AccuPlacer that we have been using for reading for a number of years, was used before spring 2019, will still appear on a student's record. The designation for that is CPRC and then says reading comprehension. Those scores are still valid and students can be placed according to those scores. But starting for spring 2019, you're going to start to see the designation NGR, which stands for the Next Generation Reading Score, and that will range from 200 to 300. The old classic ranged from 20 to 120, but the Next Generation Reading Score will range from 200 to 300. The English writing sample has not changed and still ranges from 0 to 8. And you'll notice I have 3 examples that are there. EWS, standing for the English writing sample, CPRC, the old classic AccuPlacer, and NGRD, reading, which stands for the new reading score of the Next Generation AccuPlacer. Classic AccuPlacer is still valid, and those scores are valid for at least 5 years from taking placement tests. After that, the English department recommends that students retake their placement. The old scores that are the classic AccuPlacer scores are also on both the narrative and the current flow chart. So you will be able to access in the same document the new scores and the old scores. But remember to use the highest placement even if a newer placement test has a lower score. And I just have to show you the classic AccuPlacer scores used before 2019 are represented there. Below 57, English 002 placement, 58 to 75, English 003 placement or 057 depending on writing score, 76 and above, no reading required. So your first step to place a student correctly is to look at the Next Gen reading score, or the old classic AccuPlacer if they don't have one. Now the Next Generation reading score, reading placement test, is divided into 3 ranges. 200 to 228 will indicate an English 002 placement, 229 to 250 an English 003 or 057, depending on their writing score, and 251 and above, no developmental reading is required. Then you look at the writing score. They're also divided into 3 ranges. 0 to 2 is English 050, 3 and 4 is English 051 or 057, depending on their reading placement, and 5 and above, no developmental writing courses required. So here's some examples. A student tests into the lowest reading, which is represented by the Next Generation reading 200 to 228. If that student has a writing score between 0 and 2, they're placed in 002 and 050. A writing score between 3 and 4, 002 and 051. A writing score of 5 or more, no developmental writing is required, and you might want to recommend that that student retest in reading because that indicates that they may have had a problem when they were taking the test, that their writing score places them out of developmental writing, and their reading score puts them in developmental reading, and they may want to retest. In the mid-range, those are the scores that get a student between 229 and 250 on the Next Generation reading, places them in English 003. So if they have the lowest writing score, it's 003 and 050. If they have the medium, the writing score of 3 and 4, and the 229 to 250, the English department recommends English 057. Another option, if a student doesn't want to take 057, is to take the 003 and 051 separately. Scores of 229 or 250 to 250 in the Next Generation reading and a writing of 5 or more is English 003 placement, no developmental writing is required, and the student can take English 101 or 110 as a co-requisite. If their scores place them out of developmental reading, we would recommend a retest in writing if their writing score is between 0 and 2, but their placement would be no developmental reading required, English 050. If they test out of developmental reading and they score a 3 to 4, there's no developmental writing required, and their placement is only English 051. Or they could potentially have an accelerated section on those campuses where it's offered, where they are linked with an 051 and 101 section. And finally, if their reading score is 251 to 300, the writing score is 5 or more, that means that they are eligible for English 101 and English 110, and no developmental or reading or writing is required. Just want to emphasize again that students that test are required to enroll in 003 and choose to be in 101 in the same semester must maintain their enrollment in their reading class or they will be dropped from English 101. Students are told this on the first day of English 003, and it is the responsibility of the reading instructor to make sure that it is enforced, that if they drop a student from their 003 class who is enrolled in 101, they notify the 101 instructor. So here's some examples. What's the placement for the following student? The Next Generation reading is 222. The writing is 4. So their placement is 002 and 051. Or this one. Their Next Generation reading score is 240. Their writing score is a 4. So the recommended placement is English 057, or if the student would prefer to take them separately, 003 and 051. What about this student? Well, 260 is fairly high, a 6 is high, placement is in the college level English, no developmental reading or writing is required. Now this one, we have the old classic AccuPlacer score and we have the Next Generation reading. So we have the 70 and we have the 210. And then the English writing sample is a 2. Placement is made using the highest score, which in this case, English 003 and English 050. In example 5, we have what is the placement for the following student? The placement is English 002, no developmental writing is required. Another option would be English 007, where it is offered on your campus. Example 6, what is the placement for the following student? As you see, their placement is English 050 with no developmental reading required, but in this case we probably would recommend a retesting in writing because that's kind of a unbalanced score. Example 7, what is the placement for this student? You'll notice this is the old classic AccuPlacer, and the placement is English 002 and English 050. Finally, what is the placement for this student? Again, this is the old AccuPlacer. You would go by the old classic scores. Placement is English 051, there's no reading required, and another option is English 051, an accelerated section where offered. If you have any further questions, contact advising at your campus, your curriculum counselor, the English department chair, Christine Noack, or me, the developmental education coordinator. Hopefully this has helped to understand some of the issues and how to advise students in developmental English at HACC.